And welcome back to the WHHI Daily News. With me now is Stephen Murray. Stephen Murray, as you know, is a former mayor of Beaufort. He and several others, many others actually, drove a caravan of multiple trucks filled with supplies to Western North Carolina last week. And then once he got there, he ended up spending several days cutting down trees along with his friends and colleagues. Stephen, it's so good to have you with us. I had reached out to you to see if you would be on our news today to tell us how your efforts began after the storm and then kind of what transpired after that.
Yeah, hey Robyn, it's always good to see you. Although I wish it were for a different subject today.
Yes. So what did you get a phone call from Bob Woodman, and then you got Bennett Schiller involved and others. So how did it all begin?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you watch the devastation in Western North Carolina, I think a number of us wanted to help in some way. There's probably a question mark about how. And so Saturday, a week ago, my friend Bob Woodman, he and I worked together during Hurricane Matthew for recovery efforts here in Beaufort. He called me and said he wanted to help, and I said, I do too. I've been trying to scratch my brain and figure out what that means. So our first thought was we'd load up chainsaws and equipment and head north and start, cutting trees and helping where we could. The next thought was we have trucks, we have trailers. We saw the kind of desperate call for water, for food, for just the basic essentials that, folks just didn't have. No one else was meeting the need at the time. The federal government was nowhere on site within the first couple of days. The large NGOs were not there, especially in the more rural communities. So I think we saw a need. So by Sunday, we put together a little ad on Facebook. I put that out within a few hours. It was shared over 600 times. I called two of the biggest hearts I know in this community, Nick Bourgine of Shale Ring Ale Works and Bennett Schiller over at Schiller Hamilton, thinking that we needed supply drops in different geographic locations. So we had one on Ladies Island, one in Port Royal, and then my business here in Beaufort. And who knew? Within 3 days, this community, responded to our request. I think greater than what we thought was possible. Initially, I thought maybe we'll collect a couple of pallets of supplies and take them with us on our way up to help folks. And boy, was I wrong. We ended up within a week. We've moved over 100 pallets of much needed supplies, water, first aid, baby formula, non-perishable food items, toilet paper, paper towels, a couple pallets of bleach and disinfectant. It's really been a remarkable effort where this community, everybody has said yes. When we called and had an issue with logistics or with pallets, it's just been, many hands make hard work light, I think is the definition of our effort.
Well, it was a wonderful joint effort with the citizens of Beaufort and Port Royal and others. And when you got there, were you surprised at what you saw? Was it worse than what we've seen in the pictures and the videos on our various networks?
Yeah, I think, I'd say it's more nuanced than what maybe we're seeing on the nightly news. We left Thursday morning with a convoy of about 10 trucks and trailers, all volunteers who dropped everything to take supplies. At that time, it was early on where large trucks couldn't get into the affected areas. So we knew we had to have a smaller sort of truck and trailers to be able to get kind of that last mile. And so we fanned out to almost a dozen communities last week. Again, almost all rural, hard to reach areas. And so I think our crew saw firsthand the devastation. What's interesting is that in certain areas, perfectly manicured lawns, like nothing ever happened. And then you drive a mile or two and it was like a bomb went off.
Wow.
We kept using the word apocalyptic in terms of the depth of the water, the force of the water, to see an entire house, completely lifted off of its foundation and taken some distance and then just crushed against a riverbed.
Yep.
Just unbelievable.
Terrible. The power of wind and water, and so many people didn't realize how serious it was going to be. I mean, we saw that it was coming up through Florida, but who knew?
Well, we kept saying, down in the Lowcountry and in the coastal states, we're sort of built for these things. We work hard to prepare, and I think we're sort of used to it. But the Western North Carolina mountains are not prepared for these types of events, and I think that's apparent now. You're looking at the damage estimates, the cost to put Western North Carolina back together. It's significantly higher than what you see in other storms that hit the Lowcountry or hit Florida.
Right.
Again, just because of the devastation and the amount of engineering in issues with roadways and major infrastructure like water infrastructure.
We here at WHHI really appreciate what you all accomplished last week. Thank you, dear. Bye-bye.
Robyn, I appreciate that. Thank you.
And after the break, we'll learn more about the South Carolina State Fair. Don't go away.